The Millionaire's Mansion. Once upon a time, in a grand mansion perched atop a hill, there lived a man named William Gray. He was a man of immense wealth, a self-made millionaire, who had built his empire from nothing. His life had been a whirlwind of success, one business triumph after another, and he had spent decades chasing money, power, and status. But on this particular night, as the stars shimmered quietly outside his enormous windows, William found himself sitting alone in his vast, empty mansion. The silence was thick, and the weight of his loneliness pressed down on him like a heavy fog. Years ago, when William was just starting his journey, he had a family. A wife named Emily, who loved him deeply, and a daughter named Lily, who adored him. They had once lived in a small, cozy house filled with laughter, warmth, and love. But as William's ambition grew, so did the distance between him and the ones he cherished most. He remembered the early days, when Emily would wait up late for him, worried when he worked long hours. She would ask him if all the late nights and endless meetings were worth it. "You're missing moments, William," she would say softly. But William, blinded by his drive to succeed, would brush her concerns aside. "I'm doing this for us," he would tell her, promising that once he reached the top, they would have everything they ever wanted. "Just a little more time, and we'll be able to live the life we deserve." But time passed, and the more William achieved, the less time he had for his family. Business meetings replaced family dinners, and phone calls to clients took precedence over bedtime stories for Lily. He had built the empire he dreamed of, but in the process, he had unknowingly sacrificed the very thing that mattered most, his family. Emily, who had once stood by his side, grew weary. She watched as the man she loved became a stranger, consumed by his work. She tried to hold on, but eventually, the loneliness became too much. One day, she packed her bags, took Lily by the hand, and quietly left the mansion that had never felt like a home. William didn't even realize they were gone until hours later, when he finally stepped away from his desk. He walked through the house, expecting to find them in the living room, or maybe in Lily's bedroom. But all he found was a note, written in Emily's familiar handwriting. The words were simple: "I hope one day you find what you're truly looking for." That was the day William's world began to crumble. He had everything he had ever wanted: fame, fortune, a sprawling estate, but none of it mattered anymore. The mansion, once a symbol of his success, now felt like a prison. Its halls echoed with the absence of laughter, and its rooms were filled with the memories of what he had lost. As he sat in the dimly lit living room that night, surrounded by the luxuries his wealth had afforded him, William felt more alone than ever before. The fortune that had once seemed so important now felt hollow, and the success that had once driven him now seemed like a distant, meaningless goal. He stood up and wandered through the mansion, walking past the grand staircase, the crystal chandeliers, and the marble floors. His footsteps echoed in the emptiness. He passed by Lily's old room, untouched since the day she left. Her bed was still made, and her toys were neatly arranged, as if waiting for her to return. But William knew she wouldn't. He made his way to the garden, where Emily had once loved to sit in the mornings. The flowers she had planted were still blooming, though they were now cared for by the mansion's staff. William knelt beside them, running his hands through the soft petals, wondering how he had let things fall apart so completely. As he sat there in the quiet night, a sense of regret washed over him. He realized that in his quest for success, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. He had been so focused on building an empire that he had forgotten to nurture the relationships that made life worth living. For the first time in years, William wept. He wept for the family he had lost, for the memories he would never get back, and for the life he had missed out on. And as the tears fell, so did the walls he had built around himself. In that moment, he wasn't a millionaire, a businessman, or a powerful figure. He was just a man who had lost his way. The wind whispered softly through the trees, and for the first time in a long time, William listened. He didn't know how to fix the past, and he didn't know if it was too late to make amends. But he knew one thing: he had spent enough time chasing the wrong things. The mansion, with all its grandeur, would never fill the emptiness in his heart. The fortune he had amassed couldn't buy back the time he had lost with his family. And so, in the stillness of the night, William made a decision. He would leave the mansion behind, the symbol of all his mistakes, and try to find a new path, one that wasn't built on money and success, but on love, forgiveness, and connection. He didn't know if Emily and Lily would ever welcome him back into their lives. But he knew that if he was going to move forward, he had to try. And so, with nothing but the clothes on his back and a heart full of hope, William set off, leaving behind the empty mansion that had once been his kingdom. And as the stars twinkled overhead, he realized that sometimes, the richest man is not the one with the most money, but the one with love, family, and a life full of meaning.